emotionally drained? Do you feel tired all the time? Do you feel like no matter what you do to try and replenish things, nothing changes? You don't get more energy. You just feel cooked every day, every week, every month, the same cycle. And then the thought of having to spend time with people, even people who you used to enjoy spending time with, the thought of that just exhausts you. And so you go from one tired thought to the next, to the next, to the next, and after a while, you actually feel buried underneath it. You start to think to yourself, is this my life now? Is this who I am? Is this how it's always going to be, that I'm just going to live in this zombie state of emotional tiredness for the rest of my life? What if I told you that the emotional tiredness was not the core problem that you're dealing with? What if I tried to share with you today that maybe the tiredness that you're feeling emotionally, that inability to even get up for social events and spending recreational time anymore, is actually not the source of the problem, but rather is a symptom of something bigger? You know, if you feel that way, I can say to you, I know what that feels like as well. I can remember a time about 15 years ago, right in the middle of a super pressured, difficult season in my career where there was immense strain against me and literally hundreds of people counting on me to get decisions right. And I remember having this experience going out for lunch one day just to pick up some takeaway lunch and go back to the office. And I remember getting back to my car after having done a few errands, and I had to make the decision, what will I buy for lunch? And I reached a point of exhaustion and being so emotionally drained. People these days would call it burnout or something similar to that. But I remember standing next to my car for close to 10 minutes, totally incapable of deciding between buying a sandwich or sushi for my lunch. And for 10 minutes, I went round and round and round in my mind, stuck in this loop of not being able to make this decision between two lunch choices. Such was the state of my depletion. In the end, I just became so anxious about what was going on, which is not my personality at all, but I'd reached such a desperate place of exhaustion and tiredness that in that moment, I literally just got in the car and drove home and crawled into bed and went to sleep for about 6 hours. Was the only solution that I could come up with, because I'd gotten so exhausted and so depleted. And through that horrible experience, I had to figure out what was actually going on, how did I get there, and what was I going to do about it, because I knew I couldn't keep living that way. You see, I had gotten to a place where maybe you feel like you're at, where I was emotionally burnt out. I had no fuel left in the tank. And that word tank is the perfect segue that I want to bring you to help you understand a simple framework that maybe you can start to do something about to get out of that state of perpetual tiredness, get out of that state of being emotionally drained all the time, and start to recover your energy and therefore your life. Here's the deal. We've got to accept the fact that we are three-part humans. We are body, we are spirit, we are soul. And in our soul, we are made up of our emotions, our thoughts, and our willpower. If you can imagine for a moment that your soul is like the fuel tank in a car or some other engine-powered vehicle, we need to understand that our emotional fuel tank has to have resources being replenished, otherwise the tank will run dry. It's interesting how we all accept the fact that a car or a motorbike or a truck or some kind of vehicle requires fuel that must be topped up, otherwise the engine will stall and there will be zero progress. And yet we struggle to accept the fact that the same principle applies in our soul. Our soul requires emotional resources, because every single day of your life you are burning emotional resources. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, you are required to burn fuel in order to get through the activities that you're responsible for. Well, most people just go through this repetitive cycle of day after day, week after week, year after year, burning fuel resources in their soul, never realizing that they need to replenish those resources. So let's unpack that for a moment. First of all, you've got to accept that your soul requires emotional fuel. Secondly, you've got to accept that that emotional fuel gets burnt lower and lower with each new day. Number 3, and the big change that can affect your future, is to understand that you need to intentionally refuel. I call it soul tank management. Here's what you've got to understand about putting fuel back into your emotional tank. Number 1, your fuel type will be unique to you. In other words, what puts resources in my soul will not necessarily be the same as you. You've got to do the experimentation to figure out what will replenish your resources. Now, here's another reword to help you remember it. The key is recreation, or better pronounced, recreation. You need to expose your life to recreational activities, getting in nature, exercise, reading books, being creative, doing something that equals the unique fuel that your soul needs to put resources back in the tank so that you've got some fuel to burn so that you can get through your daily responsibilities. Number 1, your fuel type will be unique. Number 2, you have to intentionally go back to that fuel station on a regular basis so that you don't run out of fuel and end up parked at the side of the road, so to speak. There's so much more that I could say about this subject, and if you'd like to learn more, why don't you put the word fuel in the comments and I'll reach out to you and help you to understand what else you can do to get out of this state of being emotionally drained. Doesn't have to be your permanent identity, and to learn the skill, the art form of great soul tank management.